time for Hoop Scoop. Tony Anzetti, Larry Kotler are here to get you caught up as to what's happening in the world of basketball. Hello, Mr. Anzetti. How are you?
Hi, Lou. Good to see you.
Good.
Jason, good to be back. Sorry about last week, but real work became before play here, so here we go.
Well, time for you to play right now.
Well, the girls are playing now. Last night it got underway with the postseason. Class 1A began their postseason action, so some of the preliminary games to get to the next round, the quarterfinals and semis in their districts and stuff, and regional action. So girls state tournament trail is starting. Wrestling, of course, their district finals are this weekend for those qualifiers in state wrestling. The boys state swimming championship is this weekend at the Y. So a whole lot going on at the high school level, and then that's followed up by the boys state tournament, and then of course, here we go with the NCAA basketball tournament. So it's going to be a busy month here in the Des Moines area for sure at the Wells Fargo Arena. But on the girls' side, the team that began the season on top of my poll in Class 5A is back on top at the end of the regular season. The last poll will come out on Sunday morning, by the way, so those who follow me on Facebook and Twitter, they can catch it. But the Johnston Dragons, I think, they had a little bump in the road, but they're playing really well right now. They have a lot of mismatch problems with Knuth and Hinders and Brown, and so they're really good. But you see a lot of the Central Iowa Metro League teams in the top 10 that I have with Ankeny Centennial, Waukee, Indianola, who's had a fantastic year, and West Des Moines Valley, Southeast Polk, but a lot of them will end up knocking each other out to get that trail, so it'll be interesting. It's so balanced this year. It's kind of like the NCAA has been this year on the men's side. Anybody can knock anybody on a given night, so I think it's going to be a really exciting tournament trail on the girls and even on the boys' side this year, with a couple of teams maybe on the boys' side that at the end of it all will probably be good. But here in Central Iowa on the boys' side, West Des Moines Valley, Hoover, Dowling Catholic, Ankeny, Des Moines North, Ames, just a list of teams are all part of the top 10, and those knocking on the door in the 4A field. So wide open field. We've got some pretty good smaller schools too. You look at Grandview Christian, both on the girls and boys side, they've had outstanding seasons. And when you look at Pella, the perennial powers, and both the girls and boys are ranked in the top 10 in their 3A field or 4A field, depending on which one you're going to. So a lot of good girls games, a lot of good boys games coming up, and it's always fun in the postseason and always fun to watch that state tournament at the Wells Fargo Arena. As you see on the 3A side there, some of the girls, Mason City out of the CIML.
Yeah, Fairfield's hanging in there too,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah, Fairfield's had a lot of losses, but they've played such great competition, and night in and night out, they're going to be pretty tough. And of course, up at north of here, Ballard of Huxley always seems to put together a pretty good girls basketball program, and they've done it again with Abby Dow doing a great job over there. So a lot of things going on. You can check out high school play-by-play at CISN.TV.com, who I'm part of. Our show on Saturday morning on ESPN 1350, 8 to 10 every Saturday morning, where we do talk a lot. It's basically Central Iowa, some statewide coverage, but basically we talk about the high schools, both on the girls and boys side. I think since December when we began, we've talked to nearly 40 girls and boys basketball coaches. So we get around the world, and not just the big schools. We talk to the small school coaches and talk small school basketball as well. And on tomorrow morning show, if you're a wrestling fan, Bob Selby, a longtime friend of mine and does a great job with wrestling. We're going to spend a half hour talking about some of the kids here in Central Iowa, some of the teams to watch for in the state tournament run come wrestling tournament time. So
I can't believe that's almost here already.
Yeah, it's just fast. Everything, boom, here we go, and we'll get ready for the spring.
There you go. That was fast. And speaking of fast, it looks like Indiana had a fast start last night, Top Man.
Indiana had a fast start. They were up 15 early. I think it was 25 to 10. And then Iowa came back, took the lead early in the second half, but then Indiana pulled away toward the end. And to me, it was a matter of Iowa didn't make shots down the end. It seemed like they were chucking up shots that just weren't going down. Plus, they couldn't hit anything from the free throw line. But
like that's not 52%. Unusual for playing in that arena. Yeah. There was some statistic that was thrown out yesterday. I think one top 5 team has won for a whole handful of times they've been in there. Just very unusual for a top 5 team to win in that facility.
Oh, I wasn't concerned about it at all, just like I wasn't concerned about the Maryland loss. I mean, these are good teams you're playing on the road. It's never easy to win on the road anyway, and you're playing talented ball clubs. So I'm not concerned about this at all.
So what does that do to the Big Ten?
Well, they're tied. There's a three-way tie.
Three-way tie now, yeah.
Yeah, because you have Maryland, you have Indiana, and you have Iowa.
All right.
And then Iowa next up, they've got Minnesota. Minnesota is winless in the conference.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Jason Parkin. I'm going to say we're probably going to win this one. Okay, I'm just saying.
They've got Penn State coming up in there. They're not very good.
Yeah, at the end of the year on senior night, which they'll pay back what happened in Bloomington yesterday. Yeah. So the road for Iowa is good. The only concern, Larry, after last night was the bench. I mean,
Right.
Iowa needs that bench, and last night they didn't score. I mean, if they did, it was late because at one point they hadn't scored. But that bench needs to be a little bit more consistent, and they'll be fine.
They'll be
It was
fine.
a road
I'm worried
loss
about
that you
the
could
bench.
expect that was going to happen. So.
Seth Davis was on our show yesterday, and we asked him, I said, how far do you think this Iowa team can go? He says, you know what? They can be a contender for a national title because, as Tony and I were talking about earlier, there's no super teams out there. I mean, their team has been bounced from the #1 spot all year long. So now I didn't say the same thing about Iowa State when I asked him about that, because Iowa State right now, their problem is depth.
Yeah, they're vulnerable. Yeah.
They're very vulnerable because McKay should be back tomorrow for the game against Texas from the suspension. Obviously, Long is out for the year. I mean, they're going deep into their bench. The problem that you have when you don't have any depth is if anybody gets in foul trouble, then you're going deeper and deeper into your bench to guys who really haven't played or really aren't tested. And so Iowa State's been losing some games here. I mean, they lost to West Virginia. They lost to Texas Tech the other night in overtime.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a
that
tough
was.
loss.
I didn't expect that.
No. Yeah, but Texas Tech's pretty good. You know, let's think about the Big 12. And we're talking to Jake Sullivan yesterday as I'm dropping more names. He said, you know, one of the things we talked about the Big 12, there really are no weak sisters in the Big 12. Possible exception maybe TCU, but they're okay. They're not great like the other teams are.
Right.
So, you know, but Iowa State's got two tough games. They got Texas and Baylor. Baylor beat them at home. Now they got to go down to Waco.
Right.
So I mean, these are going to be challenging games for the Cyclones all the way through. And then, of course, you've got Drake, and, you know, Drake's been struggling. We're going to Southern Illinois tomorrow. We've had good success there, but Southern Illinois...
The Salukis are good.
They're the surprise team in the Valley. I mean, they're #2 in the Valley right now, so they've been playing very well. So Drake has to go out to Southern Illinois and hopefully can knock them off. Couple tough games against Northern Iowa and Wichita State. Wichita's good, man. I mean, they are good. They could make some noise in the tournament now, because now that Fred VanVleet's healthy. See, that's when they lost those games early, he was out. So he lost 6 games. But 4 of them were with him out. So it makes a big difference. So they're tough. And then Northern Iowa, they've got to play, I got to look ahead and see, they've got a couple games coming up again. Oh, they got to go to Wichita. That's tomorrow. That's an afternoon game. And then they got to play Loyola, who beat them in Cedar Falls and held them to only 41 points.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they should have more success up there. But UNI's just up and down. But they've won 5 in a row now. So they're starting to peak at the right time.
When they're up, they're really good.
That is absolutely true. Hey, I do want to mention something. You know, I'm with the Lupus Foundation, as you know. I'm on the board of directors for the Iowa chapter. Well, we're trying to get people to vote for Iowa State basketball coach Steve Prohm, because it's called the Infinity Coaches Challenge.
Right, you might have seen that on ESPN. They talked a little bit about that.
That's exactly right. And if you go to lupusia.org, or if you go to their Facebook page or go to my Facebook page, the Iowa chapter of the Lupus Foundation of Iowa, you can vote for Steve Prohm. He's currently in 14th place. And what happens, he's representing the Lupus Foundation because his mother-in-law passed away from lupus. So if you vote, and it doesn't take that many votes to move up. Right now we're number 14, and we've already earned, I think, $7,500.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
but the
that's all right.
winning coach gets $100,000 for his charity, but it goes up incrementally. So the more votes you cast, like if you get in the top 4, you get $15,000 for the charity.
That's beautiful.
So all you got to do is get out there and vote for Steve Prohm, and it takes less than a minute to do it. Just go to lupusia.org and you'll see it there.
Or find Cotton Man.
Or find me.
Yeah, I think that'd be easier.
Yep.
That'd be easier to figure out.
And then we got the radio show on Thursday night. Next week we got some guy named Vital coming on. You ever heard of him?
Richard, is that Richard? Richie?
Yes, Richard.
Yeah, Richard.
Ricky Vital.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, baby. It's gonna be rock and roll.
Well, he did the game last night.
You want to know something that was really impressive? I'm not sure who else watched it, but they talked. One of the news stations talked to Vital, and they said, "Well, what do you think about this Iowa team?" And without notes, he rattled through all the players for Iowa. And this guy here, he's a showman, and it's going to really make the difference. And then so and so. I mean, he was going back and forth all the different players for Iowa without any notes.
He knows his stuff.
It was very impressive.
It'll be a fun show.
It'll be fun.
Well, we always have a good time.
All right, what time again?
6 to 7 on Thursday nights on 1350 ESPN, which is where you can hear the Drake game tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
All right, so you're on Thursday. But
I'm on Saturday morning, 8 to 10 on ESPN 1350 as well.
Great job, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.